Coming up in this video, we're going to show you how to maintain the brakes on your motorcycle. We're going to do it on a Honda Pan-European, but the procedure is the same on vast majority of motorcycles. Stay tuned. So the equipment you need to do this job are some maintenance spray for cleaning around the brake pistons, some brake cleaner for cleaning the discs, some clean blue roll for wiping the discs, some copper grease for the threads and pins, some lithium grease for the sliders if you've got any, a clean rag for drying around the brake caliper, brake piston tools. This pushes the piston back and this rotates the piston to free them up, and a toothbrush to clean round the pistons. Obviously you also need the correct tools and sockets for your bike, and ideally a workshop manual. So obviously you want to start by loosening the caliper mounting bolts, and also loosening the brake pins. Then you want to take the bolts off. Now on this particular bike, you also want to take this bushing out and grease them too. But obviously if you've not got the same bike as this, you may not have these. So basically just want to take them off, clean them, and apply some fresh lithium grease. And always wipe off any excess grease. Again, wipe off the excess grease. I'm going to start by taking the pads out. So if yours is held on like this with a pin, take that out, then take the pads out, noting which way around they are. You want to put them back in the same way. The slider should just slide off. Some bikes have sliders, some bikes don't. Usually bikes that have pistons on either side of the disc won't have a slider. This one obviously does because they're just on one side. Get your rag behind it to avoid any overspray and spillage. Get your toothbrush and some maintenance spray. Just spray a bit around the pistons and give them a good scrub. So you're getting all the dirt and crud off from around the pistons. Now sometimes if there's bits of surface rust on the pistons, you can get a small flat bladed screwdriver and just scrape the rust off. These aren't actually in too bad condition. Usually it's best to pump the brake a little bit to push the piston out just a little bit to give it a good clean, and push them back and forth a little bit just to work the pistons. This just helps free them up. And these are handy piston pliers, just so you can get a bit of rotation on the piston, helps free them up and so you can clean all the way around them. Obviously you want to do the same on all the pistons. Sometimes for this you'll need the piston tool just to push them back. But these are quite free and I can just do it by hand. They don't need to go all the way back, just back a little bit. And then get your clean rag and make sure it's thoroughly dry everywhere. Clean the pins on your sliders. Make sure there's no rust on them. These are quite nice. And what you want to do is just apply a little bit of lithium grease to the sliders themselves. And it's handy to make sure the old grease is out of it, and inside here they're nice and clean. And that should just slide on nice and easy, and it should be nice and free like that. And obviously if there's any excess grease, you want to wipe it off, because you don't want any of that going anywhere near your pads or your disc. Again, make sure everything's dry. Inspect your pin. If it's a bit rusty, get a wire brush on it. Make sure it's clean and just apply a very thin smear of copper grease to it and on the thread itself. Then we're going to put the pads back in the same way, making sure they're fully seated. And if yours has got a carrier like this one, make sure they're seated on the carrier as well. Just loosely put the pin in place. And for your brake disc, you want to get some brake cleaner on the disc and give it a good wipe. And then put the caliper back on. And just initially loosely fit the bolts. I like to start putting the bolts in by hand to avoid cross-threading anything, because if it doesn't go in nicely, obviously something's wrong. Then get your torque wrench to the right torque setting and torque up your caliper mounting bolts. Then make sure your pin and anything else you've took off is torqued up. Wipe it down, and most importantly, always make sure you pump the brake. So that's it. It's quick, easy to do, and only takes a matter of minutes. I recommend doing it every 2 or 3 months if you ride quite often, more so if you ride through winter. So now you've no excuse, get your toolbox out and crack on. And don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon.